right, welcome to episode 3 of the Risen from Chaos podcast. Could be a short one tonight for at least the guild raid section, which we will go over in a little bit. But the other things, love to go over is some of the cool things that Dragonflight is offering, and we have a unique lore section as well, which I'm really excited to get into. Tonight, I'm going to be the host for the episode, or I guess, topic guidance. But I'm Jay, and then we have Darren, Daryl, Alex, and Dylan, and Ethan all joined here with us. So we got a good group of the guild right now. So I guess let's get right into it. The first thing I want to bring up that I'm thoroughly stoked about. Been talking about it the whole entire week. I'm sure Daryl's tired of me going off about it, but they are going to make the change for Dragonflight for 0 to 60. It's going to, for experience gains, it's going to be a 56% buff, which is basically a permanent Words of Wisdom buff, which I'm thoroughly excited about.
That's actually kind of huge.
Yeah, I haven't heard about that. That sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, it sounds insane.
Yeah, and it adds to the thing too of there's not going to be any borrowed power for Dragonflight, so it kind of eliminates the need to pick a main and just be stuck with it, and not having covenants either. I think it's going to level the playing field for people that love to level alts and actually gear them and just have an arsenal of geared tunes. I think this expansion is setting us up for that.
It is going to be nice, though.
Yeah, I agree. Just the whole borrowed power thing, and like Legion, for instance, like building up your artifacts and like feeling kind of like a badass. And then the first day of BFA, like I don't have the Ashbringer anymore, for instance, and you just kind of feel like gutted a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that the game has turned us more towards these like almost like godlike characters, and maybe it's my nostalgia kicking in, but I do miss the days of just being an adventurer in Azeroth. So maybe that'll help bring me down to my roots.
It'd be nice to get back there.
Yeah, oh yeah. Let's see. Next thing as well. So there's an interview with Ian Hazanalakos. I can never pronounce his last name. Hazanalakos, whatever.
Hazakostas?
Yeah, that guy. So he announced that in Dragonflight they are going to add a option that you can do. It's going to be a press and hold casting option. So you press and hold a keyboard hotkey to continually cast a spell on the action bar without repeatedly having to press the button. I feel like that's going to be a game changer as well too.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, interesting. Let's see. The thing, evokers will have a bloodlust, so we'll have another bloodlust option on the board for mythics and whatnot. Now I don't know the phrasing of what this means in the interview, and maybe you guys can shed some light on it. But Ian said that for cross faction and cross realms, that it's on the table. We're already cross factions, and you could say that we're already cross realms. So what do you think he means by on the table for Dragonflight?
I'm hoping he's speaking specifically of cross-faction guilds.
Ooh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice because it would eliminate the need for us to have to make an alliance guild.
That's what I just said earlier.
Yeah, that's what I'd be saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the same interview, WoW devs have mentioned they do want to add an additional battle res, not mainly to what's it called, the Drakir or Drakthir, but just a battle res in general. I don't know who they were planning to add that to. Don't know how I feel about this one. I feel like we have enough battle reses. It's kind of the same with Bloodlust too. I think it's kind of even all around, but I get it. They're trying to probably get some of the classes that aren't exactly getting picked up to have another option to be added to a group maybe.
Sounds perfectly viable.
Yeah. I think it might have been on a Bellular video, but I think it was the Paladins getting the B-Res.
Oh, they should give it to the Warriors.
I mean, that would make sense logically. I could see that.
No,
Like
the
a
Warriors,
holy
man.
power B-res, that'd be dope.
Yeah, yeah. You said Warriors.
Yeah, shout them back alive, bro.
It's funny you mentioned Warriors and Paladin, all these tank classes, because I have an article that is in store for you guys. So this week, a plus 25 upper Kara was cleared and timed with just 5 tanks.
Damn.
They had 1 Demon Hunter, 2 Prop Pallies, 1 Prop Warrior, and 1 Blood DK.
Say it again. What level was it?
A plus 25 upper Kara.
God damn.
Sword
And
tight, right?
they put a whole report on how they did it. The biggest things that I thought was interesting was they spell reflected on the Nathrezim and Zul'Gurmux. They spell reflected the Vampiric Claws, which reduces the healing they do too. And then I didn't know this. You can spell reflect the King's Royal Slash and do 750k damage on himself.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
You can do that?
That's what they said. And, like, the guy, he has a YouTube video of it and a breakdown. He just says, this is how we do it. And they were even their backups. In the report, he was like, yeah, like our main warrior was eating, and our main prop paladin was out for the week, so we just kind of took these guys that we're friends with. Like, it's no big deal. Like, plus 25, did it in a cakewalk. You just read stuff like that, and you're like, why am I playing this game? This is insane.
Was it Rex Troy doing some exploits and shit too?
It could be. It's
I
makes you
can
wonder.
speak to some of that because protection paladins, while they are not the best in terms of like how tanky they are compared to other tanks, they have some of the best utility. They can do tanking and damage and healing all at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like paladins and probably mages and druids and hunters, like the golden childs of World of Warcraft, they can do it all.
Yeah, it kind of actually reminds me a little bit of like hitting the nostalgia button for like the Shakaden days during like
Oh,
Wrath,
yeah.
or I want to say BC and Classic, not Wrath. They basically turned it off in Wrath.
Now, I'm not sure if you guys heard, but the WoW mobile project has been canceled or disbanded. They couldn't make an agreement with the financial contract side of things with their, I guess, the Chinese counterpart that was working on the game. The reason I want to bring this up is because for the WoW mobile, they were staying in the like WoW Azeroth realm, but they were adding new lore just for that game. And even though the project's canceled, to me that sounds like WoW is open to the possibility of adding a different kind of lore to the game. I know it's just for mobile, but do you think it's possible they could do it for retail?
So that makes me think of Hearthstone. So the stuff in Hearthstone is like not necessarily like canon. Like it's like what if, almost like alternate universe type stuff. But uh, the Murloc that we like, that's in the Explorers League pack. He's going to be showing up in Dragonflight that we quest with, and then there's also an ethereal that shows up. So there is some like cross reference. So I I do believe that there's potential for like more lore like expansion, I guess, through different
Yeah.
forms of media.
Yeah, and there's always that overlooming conversation of the possibility of a WoW 2. But the biggest problem with that is so many people have devoted so much time to the game. How would you cross over all that achievements, mounts, and all that stuff to a fresh WoW universe with everything different, fresh lore and all that?
And if you're an alcoholic, I don't think it really matters too much.
True. Yeah.
But I feel like people that just play like one character, that's where it comes in.
Yeah. There has to be, maybe, if that's even a possibility, there has to be some way of honoring all the hard work they've done over the years, for each, main character or whatever it may be or something like that. I don't know. I just want more lore. That way it's a better chance at maybe a better story for once, but who knows?
I just want them to flesh out some of the holes they have.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think they have so many moving parts right now. It could be a good thing to just kind of start fresh and new, but that's probably the last thing on their plate right now. But so another thing I wanted to touch, I found out about this when I was researching talking points for the podcast. There is going to be a WoW variety show. I'm not sure on the date. Hold on, let me pull it up really quick. Um, Actually, it already passed. So so I looked at the signups were August 14th, and they did it on August 24th on Twitch. I forgot to even chime in to look, but it was interesting to me because it just shows that Blizzard is trying to reach its audience in different ways. In this variety show, there's going to be, or there was, a leveling event, a run through Azeroth, and a scavenger hunt. Kind of kicking myself for not getting in on that, but I mean, I really didn't see any promotional things for that other than, the research that I did on my own.
Yeah, I
Let's
didn't
see.
know anything about that either, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it really caught me by surprise. We've become so numb to the public image that Blizzard has put forth. It's weird to see them actually, trying to engage with its listeners and players in a different way. So the next talking point I want to go on to is the I'm saving the lore combo for last because that's the happy feel good one. It's going to end on a happy note, but the next one is going to be kind of like a grim reality is guild rating. So we can talk about how our guild rated this weekend, or we can just sum it up because long story short, guilds are struggling, and we struggled this weekend for raid. Primarily heroic. But I know someone mentioned Bellular earlier, and I actually watched a video of his this week where he went over the numbers for guild rating, and I believe when Castle Nathria dropped, I think this was normal mode, the numbers. Yeah, normal. Roughly 45,000 guilds cleared the first boss, which was on par with Legion. Like Legion through and through, I don't think went underneath 40,000 for the first raid boss cleared for every raid of every season, which was thoroughly impressive. It showed that, Blizzard can make a comeback. BFA, we won't talk about BFA. The numbers were god awful, like in the 20,000s. But the last raid was at the Sepulture of the first ones. It 23,000 guilds killed the first boss. So it was cut in half nearly, and I can't really see the numbers currently right now because it's live, but I could probably make the assumption that there is a guild shortage right now for trying to get players to want to raid with them. And I just wanted to hear what your guys' thoughts on that, because I know we've all been kind of feeling the pain of trying to get our guild members and new guild members to try to at least push through and finish this faded raid nonsense.
Yeah, that actually, I wonder if there's like a relation between that and the fact that you look at, say, looking for group or looking for raid, you pull up raid on Shadowlands and you see all the different things for doing either normal sire or heroic sire. And granted, that's the last boss, not the first boss, but nonetheless, it's just like obviously they're having trouble getting guild members to fill in the slots. Otherwise, those things wouldn't be there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a weird two-edged sword because it's the last season, so it's known as the fun season. So you would think a lot of players would come back to kind of see what the tweaks they've done with the classes and relax play. But at the same time, it's also the last season, so there's a lot of players that are waiting for the next expansion to come out to start playing again. So the other thing too, it's not a new raid. It's not new content. It's just old raids or not old raids, but raids we've become accustomed to with a different flair. So that's not really a good selling point to even want to raid. And I was thinking about this too. That the quest that is kind of the enticing point to get us to raid again. The I forget the name of it, but you get the currency and you can go to the vendor and purchase an item. With how difficult heroic is, it's just I'm wasting my time trying to even get that quest completed to even get gear that I'm actually going to use, especially when Mythics is the thing.
Right. That kind of system is really just the whole point of it was to avoid bad luck, since each raid is only available once every other 2 raid weeks. And even then, it's like, well, you also want to target just the specific gear pieces you absolutely want as like your top priority, usually like trinkets or weapons.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm really being hopeful. The fact that they put Castle Nathria out, I was really impressed with Nathria from beginning to end. I'm hoping that for Dragonflight they can produce something that's as equally as fun. But I mean, they were 1 for 3 for me for raids. I mean, the Sylvanas raid, Sanctum Domination, wasn't that bad. I just hate with the Burning Passion Paintsmith. I can't stand that boss. It's just so many
It's
deaths.
more
from
like
that
a
boss.
storyline raid.
Yeah, that's true too. And like the glass half full type perspective, for Sepulture, Anduin was a good boss fight. It was creative, difficult. It wasn't just a tank and spank. I hated the Anduin fight, but I appreciated that they're putting effort into these raids and not just a rinse and repeat of old mechanics.
That is
But
true though. Definitely was a little bit different.
yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the fun section, lore. So the topic I wanted to go over tonight was WoW villains that did nothing wrong. So I have 2 on the top of my mind that I'm going to go into detail, and then if you guys think of any others, I would love to kind of dive in and pick the lore around them to see if it's true. The first one is a very evident, easy gimme, and that's Edwin Van Cleef.
Yeah.
If anyone knows the history around him, he rebuilt Stormwind after the first war against the Horde, but when they got to Storm's Keep, Varian was just pretty much like kick rocks. And keep in mind, at the time there was Lady Katrana Prester, who was Onyxia in disguise, and she was playing everything out, and it totally built the baseline for Defias Brotherhood, out of hatred for Stormwind. Um, it doesn't take that hard to realize that they were wronged completely. They built Stormwind and didn't get paid for it at all. And I actually didn't know this. When they were protesting, I guess they were protesting outside the castle in Stormwind, and Queen Tiffin Wren, who's Varian's wife, Anduin's mom, went out to go address the crowd, and someone threw a rock and it killed her during her speech. Like, that's literally in the lore. I was like, that is like, I mean, one of the worst ways to die.
That would suck. That definitely would suck.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You got
Rocks hurt.
Varian's death where he gets disenchanted in a badass way, and then your wife, she got hit by a rock. She
Right?
got like 1 HP. She's like a level 1 queen. And then
Was
I
it
didn't, huh?
was it aimed at her specifically, or was it like a random rock?
It was just a random rock that someone chucked up at her when she started trying to give a speech, I guess. Yeah, I never, it's one of those things I never really dive deep on why Anduin doesn't have his mom. I should have earlier, but when I found that out, I was like, that's interesting. And I didn't know Edwin Van Cleef learned all his rogue-based skills because he was childhood best friends with Matthias Shaw of SI7. So,
Figures.
yeah.
Right.
And then I also didn't know, I found this out like probably like a year ago, but it's still like just shocking to me because I didn't even know that Blizzard as a company would even do these kind of things, and of course, I applaud them for it. And that's, I don't know if you guys know, Nadia Shaw is dating Flynn Fairwinds. They're like one of the like more notable gay couples in the WoW universe.
Yep.
I knew he was gay, just didn't know who with who.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, I think they still been together. But yeah. So the other thing, little tidbits to add. I guess sprinkles of lore. Dead Mines was once the area for Stormwind's treasure reserves. And then majority of the Defias Brotherhood, like I guess second in command colonels, they're in the stockades, which is why the stockades dungeon actually starts in the WoW video game, is because they started creating and recruiting Defias Brotherhood within the stockades and creating uprisings. So that's why like some of the mobs you fight in stockades have that red bandana on, because they're part of the Defias Brotherhood, which the Brotherhood picked the red bandana because to them it was the most like counteractive or opposite color of the Stormwind blue. So I mean that's pretty much all the added stuff I got on Evan Van Cleef. But how do we feel about it? Do we think he was in the right, or no? He's still a villain to the bone.
Nope. Justified.
I agree with that. Yeah, I can.
It's a complicated matter.
I mean, I'm sure
And
there.
Nixie didn't help.
Well, I'm sure there are better ways to go about it, but
yeah,
chances at that point, yeah, that's the only way to do it.
I wonder if they're going to bring that storyline back, because I've always loved that storyline. The last I did a little bit diving on that, and the last I did was so Vanessa Van Cleef, was very spiteful. And there was
Yep.
a whole amazing quest line in Dead Mines that they revamped after Cataclysm. But the last I heard, the rogues for their class hall in Legion, you actually team up with Vanessa Van Cleef, and like she helps train you, which doesn't make any remote sense to me because she hates everything about anyone that has the alliance with Stormwind. But
Well, because
I
I think Darren did it very recently, or like last couple months at least, for his class mount.
yeah,
That's what Legion. Was that Legion?
Yeah, I got the class mount back in Legion, but I do remember seeing her and like, what the fuck? What is she doing here? But I believe it was under the umbrella of everybody fights the Legion, and we're all fighting demons.
Yep. Because he beat the shit out of her because she like, oh, I should be uncrowned or whatever.
yeah, and isn't like another weird thing too, isn't it? Forget who it was. I think Jaina, when after some war, they like basically went through and like killed and excommunicated all the Blood Elf mages in Dalaran. Is that?
Yep.
And
That's
then
true.
like now it's just like, yeah, we're sorry. Let's just go back to having our lag fest of a city.
Yes.
Jaina is the worst character in World of Warcraft, so
I hate the way she's written. Like they have completely killed. Like it's awful. Her development it
ever
just
since
sucks.
the beginning, like she's ruined everything. Like I think everybody would be living in peace if it wasn't for her.
Yeah,
I think it was phenomenal in Warcraft 3.
yeah. Well, and she's got like a dating
If
history like Derek Jeter.
Yeah. I mean,
if she didn't like turn down like what was it, Kale Fast or whatever, none of this shit would have happened.
Hmm.
yeah, at that point, it's
That's
like less
nice.
than two evils.
If she wasn't like, I'm actually in love with Arthas, none of this shit would have happened.
Well,
Yeah,
I think that was destined, that Arthas thing, but it's a whole nother period.
yeah. And then she had a thing with Thrall. I'm convinced they did
Yeah.
some shit.
They had some shit. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
She's such a hoe.
There's a Thrall Jaina kid somewhere out there.
Jaina's getting balled out by a dragon right now.
Yeah.
Who do you hate more, Sylvanas or Jaina?
Oh man,
Jaina.
Jaina.
No.
Say Jaina.
Jaina.
Well,
Man.
Sylvanas.
Was not as in control, but Jaina. I remember I heard a rumor once. It was like, "Oh, Jaina's a dreadlord." That would have made her story so good. But no, she just some trick.
If we're gonna look at who's the biggest hoe, it's Jaina.
Yeah.
Yeah, but who do we hate the most?
Yeah, I'd still have to go with that. Yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
trying to think of
some-
anyone
this
else.
is just flavor of the expansion or expansions, I guess.
I don't know. I think
A
Sylvanas.
hoe with mommy issues.
Yeah, I think the most badass female character for me is Lillian Voss.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good one.
Good choice.
Say, was it Valera Sanguinar, the rogue?
Oh yeah.
or Sally Whitemane. They all
Oh.
die.
Yep.
White man. Or
Oh, that's another thing. I've been meaning to go in on the Scarlet Monastery lore too, because that one's really good. Not just because of Sally Whitemane, but
I
yeah.
said, bring me up your feet.
Heard something about feet pics. What?
Yeah, so it sounds like Pammy wasn't a fan of Jaina either. We'll go
No,
off that.
yeah, doesn't seem too happy for that one.
So my other person for WoW villains that did nothing wrong was actually Zul'jin. They went
I
into
was
the
gonna
history.
bring him up if you didn't bring him up. So
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. You know, I went into it and I was like, this. I feel so bad. Like current day, the Amani trolls are like gone, wiped out. The only thing that WoW uses them for them now is just like a rewash dungeon or raid, like they did in BFA. So to fill everyone in, the forest of Lordaeron was Armani tribe lands, and others were just living in it. And so the Armani trolls would fight, you know, the humans, and I mean, eventually the Forsaken. But this was after the Sundering, and the Blood Elf city was literally on top of Armani land when they left to go establish their own area, like Kael'thas and all that. And after the Troll War, the trolls were hunted like game through their forest. And to kind of give details on the Troll War itself, the Blood Elves and Armani tribe, they were like at neck and neck with each other. They were just constantly fighting over land, and the Armani trolls kind of fought with a guerrilla type life mechanic. They would go into a campsite, assassinate or dismember the blood elves they needed, and then leave, and they wouldn't leave any trail or any trace. They knew they had to do that because what's really ignited the troll war was that the blood elves would come in and they would just burn everyone. They would catch everyone on fire, and that's kind of where the racial disgust that Armani trolls have for pretty much everyone stemmed from that. They just don't get along with anyone because of that incident. And it happened again. Every time that the Armani trolls would get a leg up, the Blood Elves would just go through and just burn them all. So they actually were, like, I guess after the Troll War, their motivation was at a minimum. They kind of were at the brink of giving up, even though this was their sacred land. And then, good old boy Zul'jin comes around, and Zul'jin was just known for, like, he was a badass. He fought basically to, like, all means to an end, whatever he needs to do to get the job done. And it reinvigorated the efforts of the trolls. They were like, maybe we have a chance. And so, sidebar, I found a good question someone had about Zul'jin. So I didn't know that all trolls in WoW lore have regenerative capabilities. I thought it was just to the Zandalari, but that is actually an ability to all trolls. And so Zul'jin lost his arm and his eye, so why could he not just regenerate those?
Acid, or maybe he chose not to.
So he lost his eye. So he had some blood. I think he had like Lor'themar and like two other blood elves held captive, right? And I think he's the one that damaged Lor'themar's eye, and then eventually they like broke out and they managed to capture him when they stabbed his eye out, and they were gonna come back to like mess him up more, but he like chewed through his own arm to free himself, basically.
Yeah, isn't that nutty?
And I believe, I'm not sure if it's written anywhere, but I'm pretty sure like he chose to like not regenerate that stuff to like remember and like keep like the hatred like festering in his people for the blood elves and like everybody, like us against the world mentality, like,
Yeah.
look what they did to me.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading that. I'm like, this dude literally was like, no chains can hold me. I don't need an arm. I have another one. Like, complete badass. Yeah, so after all this happened, Zul'jin met two good old boys Gul'dan, Ogrim Doomhammer, and a whole army of Fel Orcs. And they all had a common enemy, the Blood Elf City. So they all laid waste to this Blood Elf City, and Zul'jin was getting excited because they finally were going to be able to take over the Blood Elf City and get their land back. And then, and the lore, this is kind of like a plot armor. They don't really go over it. It pretty much, the Fel Orc army, Gul'dan and Ogrim, they kind of just leave. They reallocate their troops to elsewhere because they were fighting so many battles. So once again, Zul'jin was left to take over the Blood Elf City. They had pillaged the whole entire land, and all they had was a city. And so they tried their best, but once again, the Blood Elves came out and they just burned them all on fire. And so they're just like, well, great. This was our shot. Now what? Well, here comes their other saving grace, Arthas, another good old boy. And I did not know this, but when Arthas laid siege to the Blood Elf City, 90% of Blood Elves died in their invasion. Arthas literally he had a extremely high KD ratio. Like, he was probably feeling himself going through that city. That's probably why when you go into the Blood Elf City, no one's ever there.
Oh man.
Yeah, he definitely fucked that place up.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so I'm kind of reading my notes after this, and obviously, the Mighty Trolls never truly gained control of the Blood Elf City because the WoW video game, you have to have a Blood Elf City. So as much as we'd love to see that happen, after the Sunwell exploded, the Trolls just kind of fell off. They kind of became a pawn for Blizzard to use whenever they feel needed. The Sunwell explosion dawned the era of the Blood Elves themselves. So I know I've been calling them Blood Elves because location-wise, that's where we know they'd be from. But before the Sunwell explosion, they were just High Elves. But then when they started dipping into the Fel, they became Blood Elves. But this was another thing that was kind of mentioned, but not entirely, was that this troll Malakros offered Zul'jin dark power. And a lot of people argued online when I was reading about this that the dark power isn't really described entirely. It's just Blizzard trying to justify that the Armani Trolls are going to be bad from now on, and that's why we fight them in raids and dungeons, because they just have this dark power that makes them disgruntled. And then, other weird plot question. So you have these trolls who have huge disgust for Blood Elves, yet on the Horde, there's a variation of the trolls and Blood Elves that I guess can work side by side with each other. I don't know. Question mark?
So when they brought back Zul'Aman and Zul'Grub as dungeons, I think there was a cinematic attached to it where it had like the leaders of the different tribes of trolls, and they're like meeting, and it was Vol'jin that was there, and Zul, or whoever was in Zul'jin's place at the time, they mention, or like, are you gonna fight with us or against us? And he's like, the Dark Spirit, we don't fight that way or something. And they left like the group of leaders.
Didn't
Yeah,
they?
Huh?
Didn't they like mention the Zandalari trolls too? I think during that when they get some help or something like that. I remember something about that.
My perception of it is that the Zandalari Trolls had this like raw, like they were the culture of the trolls because they had been by themselves, prospering their society, and then after they exposed themselves in BFA, their society just kind of like toppled on itself.
So I always understood Zandalar to be, it was like Wakanda, like they didn't really need that outside world. But the Prophet Zul, he visited all these different places in the name of Zandalari, like for the king. And that's why like we have like Zul'Farrak, Zul'Aman, like everything starts with Zul, because he was what he made people, or the trolls, believe that he was there spreading like the gospel of the king, like, oh, Zandalar has your back. But they retconned it, so it was more he was working like his own mission basically when he went out on these ships.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, he is like Zul the Prophet, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, like the Zul.
For the blood god. Crazy
Yeah.
name.
With her car and all that. Yeah. All
And
right. I think here's another one I was thinking of. Do you think Sylvanas, like, yes, she's a villain, but if you think about the purpose, because Sylvanas has just been chasing immortality, um, and it's kind of like the way they've ended her character development. It's kind of up in the air of like, I can't stand this. I can't stand this character, but like, should I also feel pity for her?
Nope.
No.
I don't.
Okay, well, that was an easy debate.
So
You burned the whole tree, for Christ's sake.
yeah, like reading the Sylvanas novel, like it's hard not to like understand and like sympathize a little bit.
Yeah,
But
but that's the point of the novel.
true. But I mean, that's kind of what the players or the fans of Sylvanas, or not even the fans, just people in general, like needed to kind of understand it. But at the same time, I'm a night elf at heart, you know. So that tree that hurt me a little bit. I got burned on the inside.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
didn't. I didn't.
forced in the novel.
You said it's
Like right
worse in
off
the
the bat in
novel.
the beginning. It's like super forced in the novel. Like right off the bat in the beginning, you got her teen years. Her father and mother are distant. And she's gotta fight for her life and blah blah blah. It's like no one cares.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's like excommunicated from her family too. They kind of like just don't talk about her at family reunions.
She wasn't
Until
always that way, right?
yeah,
No, I mean she was a great ranger, like one of the best, and then Arthas came by and he was like, "I'm gonna make you mine," and Sylvanas was like, "No." And then that was actually kind of one of the things is I don't know how many times Sylvanas has died. I know that she's tried killing herself on the so in the cinematic where she's fighting Bolvar and he's throwing those peaks at her. That's actually one of the peaks that she died on. It's like a little, I guess, nostalgic playback that Blizzard did. And that's when she like they think that she talked to like the Valkyria when she died and came back, and they think that's when she made a deal with the jailer. But when I say they, I just mean like this is just lore online, people debating and whatnot. But
That was all clarified in the novel, and she so her entire existence, right? She got brought back into undeath, and then just thinking about uh, getting revenge on Arthas was the thing that helped her like free her mind from his control. So like she was like the first undead kind of.
yeah,
And like her entire purpose for living or whatever you want to call it at that point was killing Arthas. So when she got up there and he was already dead, that's when she realized like, oh, I have no purpose anymore. Like I didn't even get what I wanted to do, like my last deed on Earth or whatever. It's like fuck it, and she heated herself off the edge, and that's when the jailer like took her soul, and, or I mean, arguably he had the other half of her soul already, so that's why her soul went straight to him.
yeah.
So
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and how shitty it must have been to still continue that quest to hunt for Arthas, you know. And I was really hoping to see more of Arthas in Shadowlands, but all we literally see is just a dust ball, just floating.
yeah,
Pretty disappointed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, I shouldn't say pretty. I'm very disappointed about that.
And how did they know that was Arthas? Like it could have been anyone.
Actually, that was hinted at pretty early on during the Zereth Mortis quest line. When Jaina's with you, and she's like, I sense a familiar presence, like when near Anduin.
Yeah, but that could be like indigestion or something.
so when you see his little like wisp of a soul, they played the same music of
Yep.
when he died. So it's like linking it through like the audio cue.
That too.
So they just, I don't know. They just started hearing music and they're like, Arthas, is that you?
Yeah, throw that beat on.
Yep.
We gotta throw a acknowledgement out for Nathanos too. You know, we hope he's okay wherever he's at.
Yeah, what the hell? What's up with that guy?
Yeah, he's just chilling in the maw. He's enjoying his retirement.
Yeah, probably. I'd expect him to be in the mod. I like to see a little semantic of like Sylvanas finding him.
He kind of reminds me of like I don't know if you guys ever played StarCraft 2, but like
Was-
Doctor.
You actually
Wasn't
think
the-
he's in the mall though?
I think so.
Yeah, it has to be.
Wasn't there a basically that Thanos was essentially a self-insert?
You know,
I think so.
Nathanos reminds me of the number 2 from Austin Powers with the eye patch. That's what I think of when I think of him.
I love the Thanos.
You said you love Nathanos?
Yeah.
Yeah, we know. Well, I know.
Gross.
I strongly disliked Nathanos, just this character in general, and the Sylvanas novel. Like, I don't want to say redeemed him, but at least made him not as terrible in my eyes.
Yeah.
So he wasn't killed, was he?
Right, Nathanos wasn't bad in the beginning.
No, yeah, he was good in BFA.
In
I liked his
Vanilla
build.
and Burning Crusade and Thanos actually was pretty legit.
Oh,
He was
yeah,
just
yeah.
guarding his house. Okay.
Yes.
Yep, yeah.
Like
That's why
over
I
in
like-
like Brill, right?
Yeah, you could find him in the Eastern Plague Lands during the Vanilla and during Burning Crusade, and you could get your own horde quests, and you'd get awards from Varamathras whenever you would complete his quests. It was
Yeah.
kind of like dailies before there were dailies.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how
And
long
then-
he's been in the game too.
If you were Alliance and you tried to fight him, then he would just like push your shit in because he was pretty legit. You had like the equivalent of flight path bats with him, so
Yeah, that sounds about right.
and so like he was pretty cool. And then then he got stuffed inside of his cousin or something, and got red eyes.
Makes sense.
Like I like how
Yeah.
they had him do full circle and go back to his house. I just don't like how he was like, well, Sylvanas is gone, so I'm just gonna basically fight until I die.
Get his throat slit by a Tyrande.
Yeah. That's another character arc that I'm curious to see develops.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I mean, she's done now.
I don't like Dinos.
Yeah, they got to go plant that seed over in the Dragon Isles.
You gonna do it in that fountain in the cinematic?
Yeah, and yeah, like was it last season where she just like went up to Sylvanas and was like, "I forgive you," and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Right.
Yeah, the cut content from Shadowlands would have made her story like a lot more like impactful and like satisfying.
Yeah, I agree to that. Yeah. Well, do we have any more villains that we believe actually were doing the right thing?
Rathian.
Rathian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rathian was until they deleted like the legendary quest where he ate the king's heart. He ate the Thunder King's heart in the original legendary quest, and then they removed it.
What?
I didn't know that. I didn't know they
Yeah,
removed it.
it's actually what originally happened. Now you can't play that part of Pandaria anymore.
And wasn't it like did Anduin slap or punch him?
He punches him when he comes back into the throne room.
In my mind, I just think Anduin slaps people.
Because
Alrighty, well, go ahead and wrap up episode 3 of the podcast. You know, it's always a fun one for the usual. Does anyone want any, I don't know, lasting thoughts or motivational speeches or whatever it may be?
Oh, Darren.
Be nice in your pugs.
True, yeah. All right. Well, without further ado, let me go ahead and find. Bye bye.